In this video, I'll be going over the top 10 best sources for getting Stardust in Pokémon GO. Without question, Stardust is the most important resource in Pokémon GO. Regardless of how you play, you will need Stardust to get ahead. Whether it's the Go Battle League, gym battles, or raiding, Stardust is necessary for you to have the best Pokémon at the right power levels. With that said, here are the best ways for you to get the highest amount of Stardust possible. So let's start off with the most common way most of the hardcore players obtain their Stardust. Coming in at number 10 is the method of obtaining Stardust by farming cluster spawns. Now, I could have started this list by saying that you should catch everything you see, but that should be a given to almost every player. Instead, I'm going to highlight what many players commonly refer to as cluster spawns. These are specific areas that have a high density of Pokémon compared to other locations. Typically, you will find cluster spawns in areas that have a high amount of foot traffic during the day, as they are determined by the amount of cellular data that is being used in that location. This could include shopping malls, museums, food courts, shopping plazas, large parking lots, and department stores. While a typical spawn area will have 3 to 4 Pokémon at a time, these cluster spawns could have anywhere from 8 to 20 Pokémon. Needless to say, if you can keep your stock of Pokeballs high and utilize these spawn points in your area, you can net yourself an insane amount of Stardust every day. But let's say you are lacking in Pokeballs and don't have the ability to catch as many Pokemon as you can at a time. Well, another great source of Stardust that doesn't require Pokeballs, and coming in at number 9 on this list, is going to be Team Go Rocket Battles. Now, in my opinion, Team Go Rocket Battles are one of the most underutilized sources of Stardust in Pokémon GO. If you happen to have a high density of Team Go Rocket spawns in your area, or if there is a Team Go Rocket event, you should take the opportunity to do as many of these battles as you possibly can. The reason for this is because these battles net you 500 Stardust apiece. You should also do the Team Go Rocket balloons whenever it spawns. If you do not neglect these throughout the day, then you can see a sizable bump in the amount of Stardust you have. The moment I decided not to ignore Team Go Rocket battles, I found that I would have a surplus of Stardust at the end of each day, even if I wasn't playing hardcore as I usually do. This is because the Stardust that I gained from these battles do add up, and I don't have to burn through so many Pokeballs on top of it. This leads me to another source of Stardust that may not require too many Pokeballs, and it is the 8th source on this list, and it is research tasks. Now, just like Team Go Rocket battles, research tasks can be a consistent and reliable source of Stardust if you do not ignore it. Keeping up with your research tasks every day will net you a good amount of Stardust, especially when you reach that 7th day streak research breakthrough. Occasionally, you can even come across certain research tasks that can net you 1,000 or even several thousand Stardust for doing menial tasks. But probably the best thing you can do is to stack up 100 research Pokemon encounter rewards, pop a star piece, and quick catch every one of them. This method alone could net you about 50,000 Stardust every time. These are things you should not ignore, because doing them consistently will add up to a good amount of Stardust. Now, coming in at number 7, it is going to be specific Pokemon with higher Stardust when caught. This is a bit of an interesting one because it is all contingent on what Pokemon is spawning around you. Did you know that certain Pokemon actually award you with higher than usual Stardust amounts when caught? Some of the most common examples include Meowth, Trubbish, Audino, and Chimchar. If you happen to come across any of these Pokemon, then you absolutely must catch it. They could net you anywhere from 750 to even 2,000 Stardust when caught. Also remember that evolved Pokemon that you catch in the wild will grant you extra Stardust as well. If you are lucky, you might even come across a bunch of these Pokemon during events, as they are part of the event spawns. Speaking of which, this leads me to the number 6 source of Stardust, and it is special events. Of course, there will always be in-game events that could allow you to gain lots of Stardust, but when it comes to the big special events like Pokemon Go Fest or Safari Zones, you will typically see a huge boost in the amount of spawns as well as special Stardust bonuses during the event. You will want to utilize these as much as possible. Just to put it into perspective, I gained about 1.5 million Stardust on the first day of the most recent Pokemon Go Fest. This was of course because Pokemon with increased Stardust like Audino and Chimecho were spawning all over the place, but there were Stardust boosts every so often. Needless to say, taking full advantage of the bonuses and spawns during special events will grant you an insane amount of Stardust. This leads me to the number 5 source of Stardust, and it is Community Days with a Stardust bonus. Much like those special events that I mentioned prior, Community Days that have a Stardust bonus are some of the best ways for you to get a huge boost in Stardust. In case you didn't know, every so often the bonuses for a particular Community Day will be a 3 times catch Stardust bonus. This means that for every Pokemon you catch, you will receive 3 times the amount of Stardust you would normally get. With the increased Community Day spawn rate combined with the use of star pieces, you can get yourself a ton of Stardust if you go at it hardcore. This happens at least 3 times per year, and it's something you should definitely plan for ahead of time. Now there is actually another in-game event that can net you a ton of Stardust, and it actually happens at least once a month. Coming in at number 4, it is going to be Spotlight Hours. Now these weekly 1-hour events are somewhat similar to Community Days in that you will see a huge boost in spawns for one Pokemon alongside a particular bonus. Of course, one of these bonuses is 2 times Stardust per catch. On top of that, occasionally the spotlighted Pokemon could be one of those Pokemon that have a higher Stardust count when caught. Every now and then, Niantic will have a Pokemon like Meowth, Trubbish, or any other with increased Stardust as the spotlighted Pokemon. During these Spotlight Hours, you can get yourself close to 500,000 Stardust if you go hardcore at cluster spawns. This is definitely something you should not miss. Now coming in at number 3, we have none other than egg hatching. This is the tried and true classic way to get a huge bump in Stardust. Specifically, if you can stack up a dozen 12-kilometer eggs and line up a star piece from when they hatch, you can get close to 100,000 Stardust. Even if you continuously hatch 5-kilometer and 2-kilometer eggs every day, you can still get a steady Stardust boost every day. Be sure to have at least your free incubator running and save up those Poké Coins for an adventure box in the store. This will allow you to hatch tons of eggs and gain a huge amount of Stardust. Coming in at number 2, it is something that is actually a combination of different things that will net you a ton of Stardust if you can align them, and that is the weekly rewards. This includes your Adventure Sync rewards, 7th Catch of the Day streak, and your Research Breakthrough. This is something I've talked about before on my channel, but if you can line up all 3 of these on Monday and use a star piece, you can get yourself close to 100,000 Stardust for the least amount of effort possible. It's a really great way to get yourself a huge Stardust boost to start your week. Alright, finally, we get to the number 1 source of Stardust, and I'm sure this is a source that many of you are familiar with, is of course the Go Battle League. Something that doesn't get said enough is just how much Stardust you can get from actively playing in Pokemon Go's PvP. Some of the best Go Battle League players seldom ever struggle with low amounts of Stardust. That is of course because you continuously get large amounts of Stardust the more you win. On top of that, the end of season rewards can net you an insane boost of Stardust. The caveat, however, that many battlers will tell you is that getting success in the Go Battle League will require spending heavy amounts of Stardust to begin with. Thus, for some players, they may argue that you actually break even. Even so, if you're continuously doing your PvP battles every day, even casually, this will allow you to gain tons of Stardust. Okay, there you have it. These were my top 10 sources for getting Stardust in Pokemon Go. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. I am Count Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I will catch you all later.